Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to get into something every developer deals with. How do all your separate JavaScript files actually talk to each other? We're going to see how to turn a bunch of isolated code into a fully connected application.
Okay, so picture this. You're writing code, your project's getting bigger, you've got these awesome functions in one file that you desperately need to use in another one. So what do? How do you connect them without just, copying and pasting? This is a core challenge that honestly every single developer runs into.
Well, the answer to that problem is a system called modules. You can think of them as the official, built-in way to break these massive programs into smaller, much more manageable files that can easily share their powers with each other.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine each of your code files is its own separate workshop. All by itself, it can only use the tools that are already inside. Modules are the doors and windows that we build to let us pass tools between these workshops, turning the whole thing into one big, fully equipped factory.
So, to start sharing your tools, you first got to make them available, right? In JavaScript, we call this exporting, and there are two main ways to get it done.
First up on our list is the named export. This is kind of like putting a specific label on every tool in your workshop. You've got your hammer, your screwdriver, your wrench, and putting them on a special shelf for others to come and grab. You can share as many of these specific named tools as you want.
And here's what that actually looks like in the code. See, in our tools.ts file, we've got utility1 and configuration. By sticking that little export keyword right in front of each one, we're literally tagging them. We're saying, hey, these specific tools are now available for any other file to use, and they have to ask for them by these exact names.
Now, our second tool is the default export. This is for when your workshop really specializes in one single heavy-duty thing. Maybe it's a giant hydraulic press. You're not sharing a bunch of little tools here, you're exporting the main event, the one big reason this workshop exists.
In the code, it looks a little different. First, we define our myMain function like normal, then on a totally separate line we write export default myMain function. This is a really clear signal that this function is the one and only primary thing this entire file has to offer. It's the default.
So yeah, this table pretty much nails it, right? It makes the decision super simple. If your file is like a Swiss Army knife, a collection of different helper utilities, use named exports. But if the file has one central purpose, one main job, use a default export. That's really the main difference. All right, so we've put our tools on the shelf. We've made them available. Now comes the fun part. Let's go into another workshop and actually start using them. This next step is called importing.
The rule here is when you need those specific name tools, you have to ask for them by their exact name. And the absolute key piece of syntax you got to remember is those curly braces. Using these braces around utility1 and configuration is your way of saying, hey, from that tools.ts file, I specifically want these two items and nothing else. You have to be explicit.
But when it comes to a default export, man, it's way more flexible. Since the file is only offering up one main thing, you don't need the curly braces at all. And what's even better, you can give it any name you want when you bring it in. As you can see, we're importing that default from mainfunction.ts, and we get to just call it my custom name right here in this file. So cool.
And this is the big aha moment, The thing to really get. A named export is totally tied to its name. But a default export, it just sends over the value itself. That's why you can rename it. You're importing the thing, not the label on the thing, and that gives you all the freedom to call it whatever makes sense in your new file.
Okay, so sharing tools between our own files, we got that. But what about using entire toolkits built by thousands of other developers out there? We're talking external libraries.
So let's make this real. We're going to grab a library called Inquirer, and it's awesome. It's this fantastic tool that lets us ask users questions and get their input right there in the command line. It's how we make our applications interactive. And to use it, we just write this simple import statement. Just like with our own default exports, we're importing the main functionality from the Inquirer package. Looks easy enough, right? So we write this line, we run our code, and it breaks. Bam! You get some crazy cryptic error message. This is a moment that, I swear, trips up pretty much everyone at some point. You followed the docs, you wrote the correct import statement, so what gives? Why doesn't it work? So here's the thing. The problem isn't your code, it's your workshop. It's your project's configuration.
You see, modern libraries are built using a system called JS Modules, and we need to explicitly tell our project how to understand that system.
Think of it like this. You just went out and bought a brand new high-tech power tool, but your workshop? It still has all these old, incompatible power outlets. It just won't work. We need to upgrade our workshop's infrastructure to support these modern tools. So, getting these settings right is absolutely crucial. Here are the 4 steps you need to take to upgrade your project. First, you run npm init-y to create your packaged JSON file. Second, and this is the magic bullet, you add this one line. Type is equal to module. Now, for those of you using TypeScript, you'll also run tsc-init. And then, as your final step, you'll configure it to use Node Next for both module and module resolution. And that's it. Your whole project is now compatible with modern libraries.
Okay, let's boil all of this down into a simple rulebook, like a little cheat sheet. Use named exports when you've got multiple reusable utilities. Use a default export for a file's single main purpose. Always remember to import those named ones using the curly braces. And crucially, if you're using modern external libraries, you've got to set your project's type to module in that package.json file.
And seriously, if you walk away remembering just one thing, let it be this number, 1. A file can have dozens of named exports, but it can only ever have one default export. Just remembering this simple rule is going to save you from so much confusion and so many errors down the road.
And just like that, you've unlocked one of the most fundamental skills in modern development. Your workshops are no longer isolated, they're all part of a single, connected, efficient factory. The doors are wide open. So the only question left is, what will you build?